There has been so much crazy stuff happening this season in football. Just recently, we saw Bayer Leverkusen beat Bayern Munich to the Bundesliga title for the first time in their club's history. We've also seen some incredible managers like Xavi and Jurgen Klopp announce that they will be leaving their clubs come the end of the season. But one of the craziest things so far this season has to be the Premier League title race. Every single match day, the narrative is changing. Liverpool are going to win. Arsenal are going to win. Man City are going to win. No one knows who is going to win the Premier League title. This is one of the closest title races we have ever seen in history. But now, with only 6 games left of the season, we are starting to see that Man City are looking like the favorites once again. In today's video, I'm going to be going over this 3-legged title race and giving you guys my thoughts and opinions on why I think Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man City all still have a relatively good chance to win the title, but why some of these teams might eventually slip away. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. I will be starting off with Liverpool because currently they do sit in 3rd place, even though they are tied with 71 points with Arsenal. In terms of their goal difference, they are lower, so for that reason they do sit in 3rd place. If you guys remember, at the start of the season, I did predict that Arsenal was going to win this Premier League title, but as the season progressed, my thoughts quickly turned towards Liverpool because I thought they were playing absolutely incredible football, and after Klopp announced that he will be leaving the club at the end of the season, I thought this was going to act as fuel for them to go on and win the Premier League title, maybe even the Europa League, and maybe even another competition. Now obviously they did win the EFL Cup. In the Europa League, they're not looking so hot, and in the Premier League, again, they're not looking so hot. In my opinion, I think Liverpool have had an absolutely incredible season up until this point, where they have been winning almost every single game they play, and the only games that they have really lost was against some of the top teams like Arsenal and Manchester City. And obviously, when you're in this title race, if you can beat all the other teams, that is a good thing, but if you can't beat the top teams, that is a little bit of an issue. But obviously it didn't prove to be that big of an issue because we saw the teams like Manchester City and Arsenal slip up against a few of the lower quality teams, and for that reason Liverpool were in 1st place for most of the season. But in the last few weeks, things have really looked different for Liverpool, and I'm not sure if 6 games is enough to fix what they have caused. I'm currently recording this video on Wednesday before the Europa League fixture against Atalanta on Thursday. But if we look at their previous 3 games, a 2-2 draw against Man United, a 3-0 loss against Atalanta, and a 1-0 loss against Crystal Palace. And what makes this even worse is that 2 of these games were being played at Anfield. If we look at Liverpool in the defense, in the midfield, and even in the attack, things have not looked the same in recent weeks. They don't look as focused. They're not playing as well. In recent weeks, we've seen players like Mohamed Salah, who obviously is an incredible player, absolutely amazing, and he's scored already over 20 goals this season. But in recent weeks, he has not been scoring. He hasn't been playing like what he normally does. He's getting a lot of chances, but he's not putting them away. And that has been a real big struggle for Liverpool in recent weeks. Obviously, I'm not a Liverpool fan and I don't watch the Premier League every single weekend. But from what I hear and from the games that I've seen, especially in recent weeks, Mohamed Salah and some of the other attackers haven't been performing as good as they should. In Liverpool's last 3 games against Man United, Atalanta, and Crystal Palace, they had a total of almost 50 shots, and they have only scored 1 goal out of these 50 shots from open play. This just shows you that in terms of their attacking abilities and in terms of their goal scoring abilities, they're just not performing as well as they should be performing if they want a real chance to win this Premier League title. Now, I'm not saying Liverpool don't have a chance to win the Premier League title. They are still right in and amongst the top 3. They're only 2 points behind Manchester City. They're tied on points with Arsenal. But these recent fixtures where they haven't been scoring, even though they've had loads and loads of shots, they've been dominating possession in almost every single game, but they just haven't been scoring. I think things need to change, especially in their next Premier League fixture against Fulham. They have to score multiple goals if they still want a chance at the Premier League title. Moving on to Arsenal. Now, I feel like Arsenal are in a very different situation to Liverpool, because with Liverpool, I feel like it's their attacking abilities and their defensive abilities that have just gone down a level in recent games. I'm not sure why, but I feel like it is their on-field decisions and on-field abilities. When with Arsenal, I feel like it's not what they're doing on the field, but it is more about their mentality. Obviously, we all know that Arsenal were in a similar situation to this last season, where they were doing incredibly for the whole season. They were beating teams by 4, 5, 6 goals week in, week out. But then towards the end of the season was when they really struggled. And again, this season, it is looking like that is starting to happen again. The fact that Arsenal went all the way until this point for the whole year, winning almost every single game they play in the Premier League by 4, 5, 6 goals, racking up their goal difference ahead of the likes of Man City and Liverpool, to now slip up and concede 2 goals at home against Aston Villa without scoring. That just shows you that their mentality, especially at the crunch time when the games get tough, when it's the end of the season, when all the nerves are rushing through all the players, they just don't have the mentality to go all the way. And that is something that Manchester City have, and that is a reason why I think Manchester City are now definitely the favorites to win the Premier League title. Obviously, you cannot take anything away from Aston Villa, because in this game they played amazing, especially in the second half. They were very, very good. But Arsenal in that first half, they were dominating in terms of possession, in terms of shots. They were doing very, very good, and it looked like they were going to win that game. But again, this comes down to mentality, because in that first half, they were dominating everything, just like they might have been dominating the whole season, but they couldn't get any result from it. And then in the second half, they dropped their heads, Aston Villa picked up the pace, and they did end up scoring 2 late goals to win the game. This is basically Arsenal's whole season wrapped up in one game, where they can perform incredibly for the first half of the season, the first 3 quarters. They can do everything, but they won't see that result until the end of the season. And then at the end of the season, in those last few games, without seeing that result that they've been wanting for the whole season, they drop their heads, their mentality isn't there, and this causes other teams like Manchester City or maybe even Liverpool to go up ahead of them and eventually win the Premier League title. Also, I do think Arteta made a little bit of a mistake in this game, because he did start Havertz in the midfield position instead of playing him up top. I'm not sure why Arteta decided to start him in the midfield, but I do think this played a little part in Arsenal's defeat in this game. So I don't think it's only their mentality. I do think it was also a mistake from Arteta. But again, the main thing for Arsenal is their mentality, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to carry it out to the end of the season. I would love to see Arsenal win the Premier League title, and I do still think that they have a very, very good chance. Their goal difference is the best in the league, and they're only 2 points behind Manchester City. But they need to fix their mentality. They need to step up their game, especially in their next Premier League fixture against Wolves. And if they do get a good result in their next game against Wolves, I do think the Arsenal team, the players, the manager will have much more confidence going into their next Premier League fixtures. And finally, moving into the last team, Manchester City, who currently sit first place in the Premier League and who are the favorites to win the Premier League title. Do I think they are going to win? To be honest, it is very, very likely. The thing is with Manchester City is that even though this season they have not looked as good as what they were last season, especially defensively, they have made a lot more defensive errors. They have been conceding much more goals than what they were last season. But they have that mentality that Arsenal don't have, and they have that scoring prowess that Liverpool have been lacking in recent weeks. And with the things that Manchester City have that both Arsenal and Liverpool don't have, I do think this makes them favorites to win the Premier League title. Obviously, Erling Haaland in recent weeks hasn't been performing as good as what some people might expect. And even some other players like Kevin De Bruyne have been a little bit quiet. But that doesn't seem to make a difference, because Manchester City have so many incredible outlets for scoring goals. We've seen them in recent weeks beat Luton Town 5-1, they beat Crystal Palace 4-2, and they even beat Aston Villa 4-0, who Arsenal in their last game couldn't even score a goal against. So yes, we see Manchester City concede more goals than what they were last season, and realistically they shouldn't be conceding 2 goals against Crystal Palace. But the fact that they're able to score so many goals constantly every single game was what makes them favorites to win the Premier League title. And again, going back to that mentality, because I think the mentality of the team and of the players and the manager makes a big difference in Manchester City and Arsenal, because both of them have been scoring a lot of goals this season, but Man City have been conceding more goals than Arsenal, making Arsenal probably the best performing team so far this season. But Man City have that mentality when at the end of the season they're not going to get tired out, and they're going to perform even better than what they were before. We saw it last season, and we've seen it for the last few years, and that is why I do think Manchester City are most likely going to win the Premier League title. And that is the end of this video. Those are my thoughts on the Premier League title race and my opinion on which team I think has the best chance to win the Premier League title for the 2023-24 season. Obviously, I am a neutral and I don't support any of these teams. And as a person who watches the Premier League almost every single weekend, this is what I have been noticing in recent weeks. And for this reason, I do think Manchester City are the most likely team to win the Premier League title. If you guys agree with what I said in this video, remember to leave a comment down below. But if you disagree with what I said and you think you may have some other valuable advice or some valuable information on who you guys think is going to win the Premier League title, remember to leave a comment down below telling me who you think is going to win and why. And obviously, if you did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.